Welcome to the Seoul Stache bonus episode. I thought we would give a little bit of love back to our fans, and I think together we'll be able to piece together a pretty cool little podcast for him. This is a bonus podcast. We call this a Seoul Stache. So it's
Yes, it's a genius name.
Coming from the stash, of our little bonus podcast. But this fan had written a comment on Facebook, and he's a fan in the United States, but he lived here for 3 years in around 2009, and basically was asking, what are the old haunts like? Some of these places like Shincheon, Hongdae, Gangnam, Nowon, Shincheon, Itaewon. Those are the big ones where he used to hang out, and he's kind of curious, like, how has it changed in the last 10 years? And I'm probably more of a guy you'd ask how it's changed in the last 15 years, because that's probably 2005 was the last time I probably spent any sort of time in Itaewon or Hongdae hanging out. So that's more like 16 years ago. But I thought you lived in Itaewon, so you you saw the changes probably in real time. And so I thought maybe we'll just kind of go through some of these places and go back and forth and talk about how they changed. And
so when you were at that point in time when you had arrived, where were you living?
So I got really lucky twice when it came to like hagwons. So the first hagwon I was teaching at was in Seodaemun. I guess that's kind of like the Mapo area, World Cup Stadium area, not that far. And where my house was, I was probably like 5 or 10 minutes away on a bus from like Shincheon and Yonsei University, Ewha University is around there, and there's Hongdae is not far, and Shincheon is the kind of college town for Yonsei University, and those are really like popular spots for young people, and they have a lot of there's a lot of bars and a lot of restaurants, and some of my best times were in those areas. What about you? Like when you came to Seoul for the first time, did you spend time in those places, Shincheon, Hongdae?
Like I originally came to Busan. That's the first place I lived, right? And I'm gonna do a double shout out here today, because a friend of mine in the States, he listens to our podcast, and he was here in Korea. This is where I met him.
Yeah.
And he lived here for a year, so we overlapped. And he sends me polo video messages back and forth. We go back and forth. And he was giving me a hard time about not telling enough of the tales of the time that we were here together. He's just joshing me. So so I can relate one of them. When I was in Busan, my first time in Seoul, you were asking when I came to Seoul. My first time going to Seoul was with him. And it was almost this time of the year. It was around Halloween.
Oh, that's the best time to come. I love being outside. Yeah.
And exactly. And that's what was memorable about the trip. He brought this up in the poll. He was like, you didn't tell the story. And this is cool for the listener who sent the comment asking what's changed, because this definitely has changed. I remember we came up to Seoul. We went to Nogwon, the market, to buy instruments, because we didn't have any. We made a little band when we were in Busan, and we wanted to buy guitars and stuff. So the Nogwon Chijang, the market, is like, for people that don't know this, imagine Guitar Center, like maybe 30 Guitar Centers just smashed together. You walk in, it just never ends. It's
wow. I've never seen this place. There?
Oh,
no. Okay.
Oh yeah,
that sounds awesome.
Huge. It is huge.
Where is it? Where exactly is it?
Nogwon.
Oh,
It's
Nagwan is the
like
name of the
the area. Nagwan Shijiang is the market. Yeah.
okay, okay.
Um, yeah, it's such a fun place, and everybody there they let you touch everything, which I love.
Yeah. Is it all
It's real.
used? It's a lot of used
No,
equipment?
no, no, no,
It's all
no,
brand
no.
new.
It's there is some used stuff too. It's not just like guitars and drums and basses. It's there's classical instruments. I bought not my preamp. I got some recording stuff here. My H4n audio recorder I got there in good prices. Like it's as good as you're gonna get ordering online here. So there's a plug for Nagwan Shijang. All right.
Nice. Are
Send
these
me
all
some free
like
stuff.
are these kind of like imitation like a Korean Gibson or like they're making
Oh,
guitars. It's
that's this telly.
mhm.
Um, I bought that. That's only like 2 years old, and I got that there. That's an American telly. Um,
Mhm.
it's actually the only guitar I've ever bought from there. No, it's not true. I bought a guitar on that trip. I bought a baritone guitar actually. Well, anyway, yeah, about the trip though. So we had gone up to Seoul to hang out in famous Hongdae because we had heard about it,
Right.
and wanted to buy some instruments. And then it was me and a couple of buddies, and we stayed like in a love motel.
Yeah,
Very,
right.
very classic trip.
Uh, well, what are they like? Like $25 a night or something? I mean, back
Yeah,
in the
back
day,
then,
right?
yeah, it was like
Yeah,
free, so you
yeah,
couldn't pass it up, and it comes with
yeah.
toothbrushes, and it's great. Uh, yeah, razor, toothbrush, Q-tips, hairband,
As long as
everything.
the bed isn't shaped like a heart, I think it's okay. Like it's
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, no
we
problem.
managed.
It's all
So
good.
we went out to describe what Hongdae was like back then. So that would be earlier than what this person's asking. They're asking about 2009. This was like 2007. So about the same time.
Hmm.
We had gone to a music store and we had bought some CDs, and we're just kind of bumming around. I remember I bought bought some long sleeve shirt. I don't remember. Anyway, we did a little bit of shopping too. And we were looking for a place to go. And this is what this is like when you're with a couple of buddies and you're just walking and talking.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
And you're supposed to be looking for a place to stop and hang out, but you never stop because you never shut up. We're in one of those moments. We're kind of like lapping Hongdae,
Yeah, yeah.
just around. And we didn't know, we don't know where we are. We're all new to Korea in general. And this guy shows up and he's got it's like a wagon or a truck, like a bungo truck, like an open bed truck.
Yeah.
So like a pickup truck.
Like one of those blue ones though, the like with the no front end. It's
Yeah,
like
I don't remember which color it is, but if you're familiar with Korea, yeah, the blue trucks. I call them
they call it
bongo trucks.
bongo.
I'm not
Yeah,
the
the bongo truck. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
bongo, yeah,
Yeah.
the 1, 2, and the 3 ton. So it's like one of these things, and he's got a canopy, and it's a bar, and he's sitting like inside the bed, and there's chairs set up on the street around the bed of the truck, and his awning for the canopy or whatever, it actually hangs over a little bit. So like if it's raining or whatever, you're sheltered.
Yeah.
And I'm coming straight from Chicago, and I arrived. This is really early for me coming to Korea. I arrived in September of that year, August at the earliest.
Oh, so everything was like shiny and new and exciting for you, right?
Oh yeah, and
Yeah.
so yeah, this was very very cool. Like we could just like have. He's like, yeah, what do you want? And he's got like a cooler of like beers, and he's got like cocktails he can make, whatever. And he had like
That's
all
so
these
cool.
lights, all these like psychedelic lights and stuff.
Yeah.
And he had a boom box, and we had the CDs. And he's like, what music? And we just give him the CDs. He's playing our music, and we're like, we wanted to hang out in Hongdae. We're like really in Hongdae.
You you
Like,
created your own like
yeah.
spot there,
Yeah, we made our own bar. We're like in the
Yeah.
street in Hongdae. So yeah, that was one of my earliest memories. And the past few times I've been back there in more recent years, I haven't seen anything like that. It's
Yeah, this is
out
really funny that you
like that.
say that though, because when right before I left Thailand in around 2003, that became like a really big thing. Was they would have, it was more like those like Volkswagen kind of vans or whatever, but the window would open and it would just be a street bar, and you just buy cocktails, and wherever it drives up and plops down some of those, like those plastic stools. I'm sure that's what you're sitting on,
Yeah,
and
something like
you
that. I don't
create a
remember.
bar, and
Yeah.
everything is super cheap. I'm sure the cocktails were probably, it was probably some kind of soju and fruit juice or
I
something.
don't know. Yeah, I don't remember. I don't remember.
Yeah.
I think we were all just drinking beers, I think. But I'm sure we made it worth his while. He made some money that night. I
Oh
think.
yeah.
Yeah,
My
that's
first experience in Hongdae was, I came earlier, so I was here in 2002, and that was right at World Cup. And so in our Hagwon, there had been like rumblings about this place called Hongdae. Like, you guys got to go to Hongdae. We're going to Hongdae this weekend. And because my friend and I both taught at the same Hagwon together. We came from Thailand, and so we were roommates, and then we taught at the same Hagwon. And it's just like Hongdae, 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 and we're like, all right, yeah, let's party. This sounds great. And we went down there, and it was just a sea of people in red shirts, be the Reds, because that was
oh
the
okay.
the Red Devils, the Korean football team. Was They were doing great. Like, they made it to the Final Four, I believe, that in 2002. Quite, I think probably unexpectedly, that they performed better than people had imagined they would. So the mood in Korea, it was a little bit deceiving, because people were so happy at that time. I was like, wow, Korean people are the happiest people on the planet, and it was really kind of fueled by this, like, excitement over the World Cup. And they were hosting, Korea was hosting the World Cup in 2002. I think they were sharing hosting duties with Japan also, but there were a lot of games were being played right here in World Cup Stadium and other stadiums around Korea. And so there was just people from all these different countries, and everybody was in a good mood. And I just remember in Hongdae, people were just driving the pickup trucks in a circle, and with tons of people on the back. And I had, after a couple beverages, I jumped up on the back bed of the truck, and they were happy to have, like, hey, we got a foreigner's a Korean fan. And I was like, America was also in the World Cup. Actually, Korea beat America, but I was, so disengaged from football. I don't follow soccer or anything. I was just like, I'll happily celebrate with you guys. And it was a wild, crazy time. But the thing, I don't know if you remember or not, but Hongdae was a little bit grittier back then. You
Well,
know what I
yeah,
mean?
let's talk about the comparison again, because that's
Yeah.
what the question was. I think across the board, everything has kind of, yeah, it's a little less gritty. I guess that'd be the best word to use. I can't think of
Hmm.
something better. However, jumping to the locale, Itaewon, um, Itaewon, I feel like it's always been described as up and coming,
Hmm.
but it's just never getting there. It would just, it's fine. I'm not putting down Itaewon. I love Itaewon. It's my first neighborhood. It was my home. It's still, when I go there, it
Yeah.
feels like home. I'm not that far away right now. I'm in Huam. So like Itaewon's
Hmm.
like, I can walk there. It's right next to me. Uh, and I mean, I definitely still have a bit of the Itaewon vibe in this area. Not quite like that, but like if you look at I think of it as three major neighborhoods now. So like Hanam and Itaewon is kind of like one thing to me. So you have that, then you have the HBC, Haebangchon and
Hmm.
Gyeonggi-dan, the two hills, Veggie Hills, what it was called when I first
G
moved
Hill.
here, how
God.
long ago it
Yeah.
was. It's not called Veggie Hill anymore. Some old people, you say that, they might find that endearing. Uh, so those two hills that kind of go up Namsan to the ridge that goes to the Hyatt hotel in that corner. If you go further to the west, I guess, is that west at that point? I don't know, it's kind of bent. Whatever. If you're up on the ridge, you go to the left.
Oh yeah, it's, I
Uh,
think you're right. It's west, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, yeah, it has to be the west because eventually you're in the southwest corner of Namsan, which is Namsan Library.
Hmm.
In so it's about 2K on the ridge, 2 kilometers. And then if you drop back down from how you went up, you come down into another little village against the mountain, which is Huam, which is where I'm at right now. And I would say this is probably the best description I can give to respond to this question regarding what has changed. The scene, the popular cafes and clubs and stuff, the Itaewon Strip is always going to be kind of that. But again, it's like always kind of up and coming, but it's just,
Hmm.
they've developed some of the parallel streets from the main drag
Yes.
quite a bit. Yeah. In some places that are really nice. There's some really nice places. So I might get over there occasionally. Hanam is really built up, but the Gyeongnidan HBC areas, they had their heyday while I was there. So I watched it transform around me. Property
Yeah.
prices. We talked about this in I think the
I think we
episode.
did. I mean, my see for me, like I was if I'm going to be honest about like these places that our fan is our listener who was nice enough to send us a message was talking about. For me, I associate all these places with drinking. It's like these are these are watering holes, right? Like it was just like, where are we drinking tonight? Are we going to are we going to class it up and go to Gangnam? Like, are we going to try that? Are we going to go to Hongdae and just, it's going to be wild and crazy, and Itaewon, wild and crazy. And for me, when I think of Itaewon, and I'm thinking of it between 2002 and 2005, it was gritty. It was grimy. It was
well, it's cleaned up a lot. It's cleaned up a lot.
The cobblestones, and there was a bar there. I don't know if you ever went to Gecko's. Did you ever go to Gecko's bar? Do you remember that bar?
Famous, yeah.
Yeah, Gecko's was super famous. I guess it's gone now, but this was the most like Western bar that you could really find. And we would go there on a Saturday at like 12 o'clock, eat lunch and just have a seat, and then it would slowly fill up. And so we would hold on to that seat all day long, and we would just hang out there. So we would just, it was like cheers, you know what I mean? Like it was just like we planted down and we're not moving. And if you go behind, behind Gecko's, it was like shanty towns. I mean, literally like tinfoil roofs, with like just, I don't know what was holding those buildings up, other than like tarps and
most of that's gone.
I went back about 10 years later, and I went to some like fancy barbecue restaurant, and then my friends wanted to go to a wine bar, and I was like, this is not Itaewon. You know what I mean? Like the Itaewon I remember was there was a I guess an infamous hill. I don't know if I should mention it.
We can't say it.
We could say it, right? It's called Hooker Hill, right?
The name of the hill.
Yeah, I mean that's what it was called, right? And so there were some like ladies of the night that would like kind of they were hanging out outside, and at the very top of that, which ironically at the very top of that hill, there's a mosque, which I always found kind of ironic, right? Like that's the location of the mosque is at the top of Hooker Hill, which anyway. But there was a bar called Paulie's Kettle, and this was like a last resort kind of like, where are we going to go drink? And Paulie's Kettle was where they would cut like a 2-liter Sprite bottle. They would cut the top off of it, and they would mix these soju drinks that were basically just like Kool-Aid, ice, and soju. And you would get a kettle and you would sit there and drink it. And I swear to God, like,
sounds horrible.
It was like a petri dish of it was probably like a petri dish of not only STDs but other like just horrible, like your feet would stick to the floor, like it was there was so many spilled drinks, and and you're just like, it was just the worst place to go to. But somehow you ended up there because you're just on the piss all night, going up and down Itaewon. But I went back again, not to Paulie's Kettle, but um to Itaewon and all these kind of famous spots like Three Alley Pub. That was a really popular pub
I
that was
remember the
just,
name. I
it's a
didn't
little
crawl as
bit,
many
I
bars
think
as
it
you
was
did. I don't
gone
remember.
by the time you came on the scene. I think Three Alley Pub was kind of
Okay.
gone. It was kind of behind the Hamilton Hotel. So there was,
Okay, that whole street's like all built up. There's a ton of nice restaurants.
yep.
There's like Praha's over there
So
now.
that whole thing got gentrified, I think. And then there used to be a Canadian bar, which is called Rocky Mountain Tavern, and they moved that over to the main
I remember that.
drag.
I played a show there once. I
Did you?
played
Yeah, it had
that.
an upstairs and a downstairs, and that was a really cool bar. I think that's gone now.
Oh, really?
I'm not sure, but I'm not sure if it's still, if they're still around or not. That was a,
There was a bar I played a show in. Oh, it's still there. It's still there. It's really close to Itaewon Station. I haven't been back in since I probably played that show, and that was like 2016. But I've
oh,
passed it
maybe
a
it's
bunch
still
of
around.
times.
Okay.
I passed it a bunch of times. I've seen it open.
Hmm.
It's upstairs, and it is one of the just like physically filthy bars I've ever been in.
Isn't that where they throw the peanuts on the floor? You just like,
It looks like they should. If you look down, you'd be like, yeah, there should be some peanuts on the floor. There should be like everything is on the floor. The the house instruments were all just garbage. We brought our own, except for of course the drum kit. The drum kit had on the ground around it, there was they must have had a lot of really heavy players. It was like
oh
all
boy.
the like drumstick like sawdust. I don't know. It was just there was just shit everywhere.
Yeah.
It got to be, yeah. Of all like the dives I've ever been to anywhere else, it just amazes me that place endures, that it's still
Yeah.
there. I can't think of the name of it.
I think it's called,
I'm
it's not,
overselling it. I've definitely been to worse dives. I mean, I've traveled, many countries and stuff, but in Korea, that one is, it always just makes you feel like I'm going through a portal when I walk through that door.
yeah.
It's a
And
little different from the rest of the strip.
but I think but you're right, and I think a lot of people have like that have lived here have a nostalgia for that bar, because it's just like it is like I think for Canadians and probably Americans too, it was just like a little piece of home. It was like a dirty college bar back
Yeah.
home. And it's so as soon as you walk in, you're kind of like, okay, I'm outside of Korea. I'm in this like,
Yeah, it did feel like that a little bit. It did.
yeah.
I think it did have a little bit of a. It did remind me of another place we used to go to a lot in Olympia, Washington, when I was a student.
Hmm.
There was a lot of like dingy bars in the main street of. If everybody knows Olympia, it's a really tiny town.
Mhm.
And I was there in the early 2000s, so it wasn't. Maybe that's also different now too.
Well,
But
I love the dive bars. Like
oh, sure.
those were the great places to hang out. But then there were also the dance clubs. I was never, I've never been a dance club guy. Like I'm not, I can't dance, and I feel uncomfortable, and I'm 6'7". I mean, it's all wrong.
Yeah.
But there was one place that was called the Limelight, and we nicknamed it the Slime Light, because and so you somehow, you end up in either Paulie's Kettle or in the Slime Light. And how did we end up here? um
I've had some good times with the same thing. I never really liked dancing much. Chicago a little bit. I had a friend that she always insisted. So after work we would go out. Occasionally I would join. It didn't really was not my thing.
yeah.
Yeah. And then when I got to Korea, the friends that I made right away, they were just like, yeah, that's what we're gonna do. And I thought, oh, is this gonna be like, some I don't know. I don't know what to expect it to be like. And then I went there and it was just fun. I just
Yeah.
had fun.
Yeah.
It wasn't like strictly about like drinking or like, you know, that. It was just being with your friends and just kind of like celebrating life. Like, I don't know, that sounds really, I'm overselling it maybe,
I
but
I had
I
that
really
I had
enjoyed
that
it the first
experience in
time I left.
Hongdae, like Hongdae dance
Yeah.
clubs. I used to have because this is back in the day, like this is
Just be
2002.
silly. You don't have to think about yourself.
Yeah, they and the music that they played was just more like like popular 90s music or sorry, popular, early 2000s music. And it wasn't like, trance or because I missed that whole thing. I was too old for that whole like techno thing. I'm not gonna hold glow sticks and like dance for 45 minutes to the same song, that never stops.
Yeah. Well, let me
But
ask you this: like, would you rather be in a any dance club in America or Korea? For me, it's Korea.
oh
It's
yeah,
just
no,
so much.
I would much rather be in a dance club in Korea, and especially ones that played music that I kind of liked. And I did find some of those kind of just where they played like kind of pop, like dance music that was, kind of radio music or something, or there might be like
Yeah.
Sheryl Crow or something. I was like, oh, I could dance to that. I
Yeah, you
could
just
that's a
laugh and you go
song.
along with it. Like, and you see your
Yeah,
buddy and he's like looking at you and you're like, I guess we're dancing together now. Like, you just have a
yeah. I
good
mean,
time.
everybody's kind of drunk, and it's just like, and that's a happy song,
Yeah.
and so Hongdae for me was always much. If you want to talk about dance clubs, Itaewon was more intimidating because it was a much more diverse scene, and it seemed like a little bit more like the Limelight was more of an intense kind of like people had glow sticks, and I was just like, it's not my scene. But Hongdae was like a lighter atmosphere, and but it was still a little bit gritty back then. It wasn't all cobblestones and stuff like it is now. And I feel like they really have in the last 10 years invested some money into trying to
Yeah.
make these like places that are like cultural touchstones, I guess now for, like I think it's part of tourism. It's
Well,
part of.
that's kind of what I was trying to answer with like how these locations have changed. Even though I would say like Itaewon still feels like it's trying to be up and coming. That's like the main strip. There's a lot of developments that are on the outside. They've really developed the main drag going from Noksapyeong Station up to like HBC, that strip. A lot of those businesses that oppose the wall for the military base, a
Mhm.
lot of those businesses on the corner right now, they're all vacant.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
Coming down, going up the hill, a good percentage of those places are vacant.
And they're asking for so much money, right? Like it's just too
I don't
expensive.
know. I didn't inquire in any of them.
Yeah.
I've just been by and I've seen the signs. But yeah, so you see that's very vacant. HBC is still pretty thick with people.
Mhm.
It's pretty dense. Not a great place to, if you got to ride your bike through there, I would not go up or down that hill or
Well,
even
here's the
drive a
funny
car
thing
because
is
the sidewalks. It's like
HBC was like I'd never even heard of it back in 2002. It was just like Itaewon, and I didn't know what HBC must have been just
yeah,
starting to people must have been starting to get pushed out of Itaewon, and they found
right.
HBC and created new Itaewon basically.
Yeah, if you look at both of those hills on that end, leading up to Namsan, they're not. I mean, now more so, but back in like 2010, they're just not designed for. They don't have the infrastructure to have that type of traffic for people. Like
Mhm.
HBC Fest, like the big music festival that goes on. It's really fun, but that road just becomes inoperable.
Oh, sure.
Because
Yeah.
it's ridiculous to think of a car coming down, and they try. There's still it's a bus route, so the little village
Oh,
buses
so
trying to
they're
get through.
trying to get through there, and
I think the last few years that I've gone, I haven't gone to HBC Fest in years, but I think
they shut it
they used
down
to
like
have
a
a
block
permit to shut
party.
down the road. Yeah, they blocked the
Yeah.
road, and then there was some conflict with the district, and they're like, we're not going to let you shut down the road. And they're like, okay, we're still having HBC Fest anyway. And then it was just like terrible traffic. And I don't know.
Oh
I
my
don't know.
god.
Anyway, the point is like, it hasn't
Yeah.
changed. It changed a lot. And then it's kind of like flowing back. The money's flowing out of those areas. It looks like it. And
Okay.
I'm not an expert on this stuff,
Yeah.
but it seems kind of like the gentrification, whatever that you want to call it, is now pushing over to this neighborhood. In fact,
Mhm.
I'm in the center of the market here in Huam, so like the center of Huam. And just last summer, there's this little shanty building, you know, like you were talking about, like the
Yeah.
roof has no right angles and stuff.
Sure.
Directly in front of me, there's a weird little garage thing kind of molded onto the corner of it that has, no kidding, the square footage is smaller than, what could I compare it to? Like the inside of a car is about the size of it.
Oh
Or
my
like,
God. Does it have
yeah.
like an Day sign on it? It's like they're trying to get people to
Well,
rent it or
what's
something.
crazy was, so this building, I mean, that's all it is. It's triangle footprint, and the interior size of it would be like the inside of like a sedan. I mean, that's the square footage of it. It's really tiny. So it's just a closet, right?
Yeah.
I walk by, and it's right in front of my house. So I walk past it, and they're doing all this construction. They're ripping off the face of it. I'm like, oh, they're tearing it down finally. You know, makes sense. They put in this window. It's like $1,000 window. It's like a sliding patio window. And it's like, okay, what? And it's perfectly caulked in. Then they paint the facade.
They're dressing up a
Okay.
turd there, I think.
Oh, what the hell is this? So my girlfriend and I, we were speculating. We're like, what is this? Like some clandestine, I don't know, what the hell are they doing? Then a desk goes in. There's only room for one square desk, like the size of like a classroom desk.
Tell me it's not
And
a
there's
Budong-san, is it?
and there's two folding chairs, one on either side. I came out the other day and I see there's a guy in an electrical bucket, you know, he's up on the wires.
Yeah.
They're wiring internet into this thing. So it's blowing my mind. I'm like, and I don't
This
want to
thing's been
ask.
around before, like this is before the Korean War, probably, this
Yeah.
building
Oh,
went
sure.
up,
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And I think it was like an old pump room or something. I didn't want to ask. I want to speculate because it's way more fun.
Yeah.
So we're always like talking about this, like our dinner conversation every night. It's like, what do you think they're building in there? You know, what are they going to do? Yeah, so the computer goes in, and then a poster goes on the wall. And I thought it was Budon-san at first because it was a map.
Yeah, sure. Budong-san is real estate office for
real estate
those
office.
who, yeah.
Yeah, and they can be small and they can be whatever. But as far as we can understand, the map is showing properties. It's a map of the neighborhood, highlighting the properties and the owners who've agreed to sell to the developers to be
Oh, it's like basically, in our neighborhood, they'll set up like those containers. They'll make it like a container office, and so it's they're planning on building something. They're gonna,
So they're going to knock down a huge part of this neighborhood. The house I'm in, I was talking about this during the real estate episode. This is for Korea. This is a very large house, and the price we have on this is probably per square footage about half the cost of what you would normally pay.
Sure.
And it's because it's a very old house and it's in an older neighborhood. But that type of development, speaking again of the change that's coming, this is probably now Huam's turn, is the way it's looking. Mm-hmm. And just in general, it's also another kind of running joke at dinner we talk about is we count how many foreigners we've seen. So
it's happening.
Yeah, I can be on my patio. I can be on my patio reading a book, and the market's down here. You have the white noise, all the voices. You'll hear, "Hey man, where you going, dude?" It's like, what?
where am I? Yeah.
Yeah.
So the HBC Itaewon diaspora is coming right into your neck of the woods, huh?
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's on steroids right now, right? I mean, because the prices for real estate have gone so insane that I think it's just sending people scurrying in all kinds of different directions and trying to, I don't know what it's kind of, I'm curious what the final outcome is going to be. I mean, when you've priced out everybody, it's just going to be empty. Yeah. And I mean,
I mean, for the immediate example, for this neighborhood appears when we moved in just about 2 years ago. It appears the average age around here is like 60. It's old,
Okay.
older neighborhood. The
Yeah.
market has all these little restaurants in it. It's places where you can still get a meal for $3.
Right.
It's like kimchi, a bowl of rice, and a bottle of soju. It's this kind of scene, makgeolli. It's this kind of thing. Like you and I, like we can't even go to those restaurants, even if we were Korean. It's just like it's an age thing. It's like, yeah, it's an old person scene.
Mm-hmm.
And so what you're saying, like what comes next, you got to imagine like the house I'm in. Okay, so this is a 2-floor house. We have the top, and this like 86, 87-year-old grandma, she has the bottom, and she owns the whole thing outright. So
Yeah.
she has no debt, and I have to know this as a, per my lease situation. So I know her situation. She fully owns this property. Well, what do you think she's going to do when she gets offered an insane price? So
Or
prices
she might sell it,
are-
but if she passes away, like her kids are, what are the odds her kids are going to say, yeah, we're gonna live there,
yeah, absolutely not. They're not going to want to live
they're
there.
gonna probably tear it down or rent it for more money, and I mean
Yeah.
this story is happening all
Right.
the
So
over and over again. Yeah.
So you've got a class of people who are younger, who have only rented. That's the only thing they know.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got a class of people that are the owners, and they're not going to be here very much longer.
Right.
So you're offering them a price that, even if it wasn't a highly inflated price, like I would say the market is highly inflated right now, even if it wasn't, they've held on to that property. Like, how long has grandma owned this place? Probably since like the 60s.
Oh yeah.
So
I would love to know what she bought it for.
Exactly.
What she paid for.
So for any number that she gets, she doesn't strike me as like a high speed trader. She's
living on a fixed income, but she's happy with what she's getting. She's like, I have steady income. She makes enough to, she's satisfied, but
she's really capable right now. And she's got all her kimchi pots down there. And I come home, there's like, there's, vegetables hanging, fish hanging. I mean, she's an active woman. She's got seems like a little bit of a network here and stuff. But at that age, there's going to come a time when she can't do those things. She's going to want to be in some assistive care situation, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not quite sure, but think of how many people are entering that category.
Right, especially Korea is an aging country, right? Like it's and I to me it's sad. And I know, like, because I these are the things that I really loved about Korea when I first came here, was it's almost like that labyrinthine, you're in Seoul and you just get lost in alleyways. Yeah. And they're not, it's not all shanty houses. I mean, some of them are, my friend and I used to joke it was Legoland, because I think they built quickly, so everything is very square and rectangular, and it's just like kind of stacked on top of each other. Yeah. But there's a certain charm to it, and I feel like that charm is being eaten away, and that's gentrification, right? We're going to knock down all these older buildings. But with that, you lose the charming nature of all the those.
It's not just the charm. I think there's something definitely at risk, and I'm not a historian of Korea. And I'm not Korean.
You mean like a cultural heritage that might be
Yeah, man. Like compromised. I look like when I walk in, I open up the gate to my, we have like a gated courtyard, and from that gate to my stairs to go up, every time I look at the vegetables drying, there's so many pots. It's not just kimchi. It's like anything that she's fermenting. Mm-hmm. She'll be sitting out there in t-shirt and shorts with just like mountains of food around her that she's like sorting out with her friends and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's an aesthetic, and it's kind of fun that's my front door. I enjoy that, like having to duck underneath fish drying as I go up to my stairs. Yeah. I love it. So as an aesthetic, yeah, it's hip, it's cool, but culturally, I think it's definitely going to be disappearing. Like the traditions here, like my girlfriend does with her family for the holidays. or doing like kimjang and like making kimchi in massive amounts. We don't know kimjang. That's what.
Yeah, my mother-in-law still does that, and I love it. We get so much
Yeah,
kimchi.
so yeah, it's a good example.
Yeah.
So your mother-in-law does it, but do you think your wife is going to do it? Maybe.
No, I don't think so. And I think that meme of that, like, and this is not a slam on Chinese people by any means, but there was a meme of like a shirtless Chinese guy making kimchi in a giant vat in China, where they're selling kimchi to Korea. And
Yeah.
it's just going to become this like mass produced, it'll all taste the same. There's no more mom's touch. I mean,
Yeah.
and that's a good metaphor, because Mom's Touch is a fast food restaurant now in Korea. I mean,
we came to the conclusion that the end result, we're like, what's the actual conclusion? It's going to be, it's going to come back around, and we'll have like artisanal kimchi makers. You can buy it like on Etsy, kimchi for Etsy, or Etsy for kimchi.
Right. They'll keep it alive in some capacity, but in that like sad way, where like in, I don't know, Norway or Sweden, there's like a bunker that has all the seeds of all the plants in the world. And, it's like, they're just sitting there just in case we happen to kill the whole planet. Well, we could still plant a lilac bush or something, because they have it stored in a bunker. But it's like, that's not the same thing. I mean, this is
right. It's something that I loved when I first came here, as we talked about in an earlier episode. And I never intended to live here. I think, well, maybe none of us did. The way we have
probably not. Yeah.
But it was when I arrived in Busan, it just surprised me. I think a lot of people think of Korea as homogenous. That's a word that's often used to describe Korea.
Like almost a pejorative term. They say it,
and I think there's some truth to this. I mean, it is statistically racially more homogenous than many places in the world, and culturally as well. But the difference that I saw, and I'm sure this person that sent in the request for today's podcast is probably remembering that disparity, that difference. You would see, like, I think I said this in the real estate episode too, when I was living in Jangsan in Busan. I'm living on the 22nd floor, this office tel, modern facilities, everything. I can walk outside, and right next to the building, there's a plot of land that has the equal footprint of this skyscraper that I'm living in. And there's a couple little old people out there with rakes and hoes, and they're planting onions, lettuce.
I know.
And it's in the middle of a city, a metropolis that's the size of Chicago. Like, and you still see this some places. I was on a run just last week, and along the road, so this isn't like in the mountain, it's like along that ridge from the Hyatt over to Namsen Library. Okay. With the traffic or whatever, and there's all the ginkgo trees, the unhenganamu, and they're dropping their berries. And I think we talked about this in the food episode.
Well, I think every podcast of foreigners probably complain about the smell of the ginkgo berries. It's like a rite of passage.
I don't mind it.
I think they taste great in Samgyetang. So I got
they have their place.
Yeah.
But you see, I saw just last week, people out there picking them up, looking for the nice ones that aren't smushed yet, and they're collecting them because they're going to take it home and eat it. So it's urban foraging. I remembered it because the person that was picking it up did not strike me as particularly old.
Oh, okay.
So that was kind of like, oh, wow, people are still going to maybe do this.
Yeah.
Because I think that's a really cool quality.
I think maybe it might be a soul thing. I think maybe some of these traditions will sustain themselves in rural areas. That's my hope, is that, if I'm being like optimistic about it, is like these traditions will still be outside of Seoul. People will, where things are a little bit slower, a little bit more, hand in the earth, like toiling in the soil, and maybe not out of necessity, but more out of just like hobbies and stuff. But in Seoul, I what I see is these little villas kind of getting knocked down slowly, and just
Yeah.
giant, apartment complexes that shoot up into the sky, an
Yeah.
edifice that's 20, stories high or 30
Yeah.
stories high.
But
And
on the other hand, there are some things that are probably pretty consistent with 2009 in all of those locations, things that haven't changed, like Korean markets. Come on, man,
yeah,
what's different? Nothing has changed.
no,
That is steady as a drum.
there's
Like
still a
they're
pig's head that scares the bejesus out of my daughter, like she's just
yeah, there's still blood on the ground. It's
yeah,
still yeah,
they're
it's
still
still
gutting
the
fish, and right next to that they're cooking fried chicken, like
yeah,
there's
yeah.
it's
That has
awesome.
not changed one bit. I can't think of anything that looks different when I walk into a Korean market. It could be a big one, a little one, whatever. Like the one here in this market, this is really tiny. Compare this to Noryanjin, whatever, any market.
Yeah,
No technology has come through and swept that away. There's no not even just that. There's no there's no like uh Home Plus or Emart that has finally dominated those vendors.
no, and there's also an appetite by customers to visit those places. Still, there's still,
Yeah.
even young people I see in the market. We have one called the Tongjung Market in Pyeongtaek, and did I say that right? Tongbuk Market. I'm sorry. Tongjung is like pain. I got those words mixed up. It's not the pain market. It's the Tongbuk Market. And yeah, I mean, I said young people go there and they buy, vegetables and fruit and all kind and meat and all kinds of stuff. And it seems vibrant and alive
And
and healthy. Yeah.
there's probably some optimism too for that part of the culture being sustained. This is for a future podcast, maybe another Soul Stache, maybe another mini one.
Yeah.
Looking at UBI, so the UBI experiments, universal basic income experiments that had been done in Gangwon-do, that potentially will be done here. Maybe they have been in some neighborhoods, but effectively you're given credit that you can spend, but only in those markets. So you can't take that credit and use it at like Starbucks.
Yes.
You have to buy from the local roaster over here. You have to buy it from
Mhm.
that cafe because it's in that network. Already we have something here. My girlfriend, her sister, and her friends, they what is it called? I can't think of the name of it, but it's you charge.
We had
There's
a
only
card. They give you like an extra $10. Like they'll give
no, no,
you
no.
no. Oh,
This is no. This is it's an app. You can put in like $100 or something, and then there's a limit, and there's only so many people that can sign up. So when the tickets are available, you've got to like get on the app and sign up, and then you get it's a big discount. It's like 10% off,
oh, okay.
and
Okay.
you have to sign up per neighborhood. So like we missed it. We dropped the ball the first time around, and we got it. But it's massive. It's like a don't quote me on it. I mean, this
Yeah.
again, I don't do the shopping.
But it's like these like these
10%.
policies or programs they're trying to implement to get people to
Yeah,
keep these like keep these cultural touchstones alive, which I think is I really do hope that Korea does keep these places, sustainable, because I just yeah, it is so much part of the charm of Seoul are these, what a cynical person might call a shanty town or whatever, not even a shanty town, but just like, oh, that building is so run down. It's not like a Prugio apartment or Weave the State or whatever. But yeah, I mean, it has so much character, and I
yeah.
feel like and I don't know if if it sounds like the not insincere, but as an American, where I feel like our nostalgia is we don't really we just tear it down as fast as we, what I mean, like it's I feel like it's hard for me to tell them what to do, like but I just hope that they don't
I think
Yeah.
they'll have to draw a line somewhere. Like I can, as much as I feel sad knowing that this house and this whole corner of my neighborhood, it's probably just going to get leveled and they're going to put in, some skyscraper. As much as that, it really bums me out because I do like the character of this hood, and
Mhm.
I can also understand the reasoning behind it. Right now, we're in think of how much space this house is taking
I
up.
know, I
It's
know.
3 people. That's just not efficient at all.
There are land
And
developers outside your building right now that are just salivating, just
yeah,
looking at that thing like
yeah. I
like a
mean,
pork chop.
next to me on this wall, there's a parking lot,
Mm,
and it's just a one level parking lot. I
that
mean,
could
that's
be
just a space. Like,
multi-level.
yeah.
Um,
So
yeah.
anyway,
What if
I think.
we like just we one place we skipped was Gangnam, and I'm just
Oh yeah.
wondering, for me, like I feel like Gangnam is the one place that really hasn't changed that much. And maybe I'm wrong, but in the last 10 years, it was always kind of posh and kind of like, um, it had cooler clubs. I'm sure the clubs are different. They change the names and they change the interior, but it always seems to still attract the same kind of clientele, like wealthier Koreans, younger, hipper.
I feel like the guys wearing silver suits, the duct tape color suits.
Yes,
No,
yes, yes.
I never saw it until I came to Korea. Like that's a
Yeah.
fashion choice you can have. Like, for people that don't know this, you wear this to the office. It's just like your regular suit, your pants, your jacket,
It's
your
got
tie.
glitter in it or what? I don't know how they
I
did
swear to
that.
God, right? You could blind
Yeah.
somebody with that thing. It's
It's
so
like
cool. I wanted it. I couldn't rock it. I couldn't do it.
it's like if you like skinned a what do you call
Yeah.
it? Like a mirror
Salmon.
ball. Oh, I was gonna say a
Oh,
mirror ball. No, yeah, really, or a dolphin or something. It's just got like a sheen. It's like a shiny sheen on
yeah.
it, and yeah.
Like, is he going to the
Um,
disco? No, he's going to the office.
well, he's going to the office and then he's going to the disco.
Does he have to
Uh,
change?
he
Yeah.
doesn't
So
have to change.
I would say
Yeah,
in Gangnam, you don't see those anymore. So the silver suits have faded from fashion.
right. And I went to Gangnam a couple, like I don't know, 6 months or a year ago, and I it was bizarre in the daytime because I think I saw probably half of the people were wearing like taped their noses, like they had just had plastic
Oh, like
surgery or
like
or
Chinsa.
yeah,
Yeah.
so there was just like, yeah, it was everybody's had a nose brace on or some sunglasses or was hiding some procedure. So I mean, if anything, it's become a kind of mecca for, I would say, plastic surgery, because even people coming from like medical tourism, and so I'm sure it's still a posh, cool place to hang out at night and go to good restaurants and clubs and stuff. But I was never a big Gangnam guy. I don't know. What about you? It was just always like, I'd
Gangnam's the
rather go to
first place I
Itaewon.
lived. It's the first place I lived in Korea, in Seoul. So when I
Hmm.
came back to the country, that's where I was. So I spent, I think I was there for like a month and a half before I moved to Itaewon. And then after I moved to Itaewon, it was kind of off the radar, except for like Garosugil.
What is
And
that?
do you know where the Apple store is? That's like the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
biggest.
Oh, yeah, the Apgujeong area, right? Is
Yeah,
that what you said? Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
So uh, I would hang out there a lot. I really liked a lot of the restaurants in that area, even though it's a bit of a hike to get over there. And
Hmm.
then I lived before I moved back here, I actually lived near campus for a while. So I was down in Sangdo.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Okay.
I
I
was in
mean, I'd
Dongdaemun.
like, if you're thinking of
So that's
Gangnam,
that's really close to Gangnam. I can just on my bicycle. So
like
easy to
like
go
that
there.
song side, Gangnam is like Beverly Hills, Apgujeong is like Hollywood Hills or something. You know what I mean? Like it's these two posh, places. But they do have, I mean, you're going to pay for it, but it's not that expensive. But they do have some wonderful restaurants and
Yeah,
bakeries and
if I'm
dessert
gonna bum
shops.
around, like if I go to Gangnam now, it's going to be because I know exactly where I'm going and what I want to do, and it's an occasion. It's the same thing with Garosugil. I don't really bum around unless I have a friend who lives over there. So sometimes we go out, like if we're looking for like a restaurant or something, we might wander the street, but that's the extent of it. If I want to wander around my neighborhood here,
Mhm.
or probably Hanam
Okay.
and yeah, the end of Itaewon there. I'll bum around there. Uh, Hongdae, I should get over that. I haven't been to Hongdae in so long. And
I don't know, man. I feel like 45. I'm 45 years old. I just Hongdae, like I could maybe go there in the daytime, but if the sun goes down, like you know,
I don't know.
like
I could pop in and see some music, but I mean, since
yeah.
COVID, I haven't seen a live show. Oh my
I
God,
used to go there when there was a lot of busking at that park. And
yeah,
that was really cool. That like I will admit, and I think
I love that part.
that's become almost like a professional, like you have to be super good to even get a spot
Oh
there
yeah,
to bust.
yeah.
But when I back in the day, it was still kind of a new thing, and so we would stop in the park and you could buy a couple beers at the convenience store and just listen to people,
Mhm.
buskers. And that was the vibe of Hongdae. And I think it's because Hongik University is an arts university, for their
Mhm.
focus, like a lot of it has to do with arts. And I think that is how I would describe it, is kind of artsy and musical and cool. And Itaewon is an older clientele. You'll have young Hagwon teachers, but you also see the 62-year-old guy drinking and smoking that's been in Korea since
Well, yeah,
1991.
Itaewon has, I mean, the demographic, right? It's next to the base, so you have
Yep.
military. It doesn't just mean soldiers. You also have contractors. Like there's a whole
There's
village over there that's all contractors. So it's anybody
right.
that's in Korea, employed via government in some way, shape, or form, and that
Right.
does.
And they're
It's like
making bank.
yeah, and they're making U.S. dollars, and they're yeah.
Yeah.
So those guys, yes, you'll see like older foreign families and stuff. You won't see that so much in Hongdae. I mean, but that park, man, I forgot about that. I haven't been over there in too long. But
Yeah. But
yeah, it's time
it's
to see some live music. I
yeah.
got a jazz bar downstairs. That's the one like kind of hip young thing in the market. This guy, it's just random. There's a
Oh
jazz
wow.
bar. Yeah,
Oh,
and I
that's
can hear it.
awesome.
I can
Yeah.
hear it from my window. It's just below me, and 9 out of 10 times they're just awesome. And
Oh,
that's
that's
my live
fantastic.
music, of course. Oh yeah, it's such a great thing. You're outside barbecuing and stuff, just like our own soundtrack.
Oh
So
man, it sounds like you're in a Spike Lee movie or something. The
it's
saxophone.
it's yeah, it's working for now. But like I said, this is a lucky shot that's not going to last. They're going to tear this down.
Enjoy it, while you
Yeah,
can. And
that was a lucky find.
yeah.
We're
Well,
having
I'm gonna. I hope to our listener that suggested this topic. Thank you. That was actually really fun. Kind of rundown memory lane for me, because
yeah,
I haven't
same.
thought about this stuff for years. And it is interesting how it's changed. And yeah, I mean, it's changed a lot, but some of the stuff is the same, and a lot of it is different, and you can't really stop that. I mean, it's gonna the party's got to end at some point, and then something new pops up, and a new cool thing will develop. And a lot of foreigners are kind of turning convenience stores into bars now. That's like the new thing, is set
Hang
up like a
out.
tent, and everybody's drinking outside, and so there's always a scene. And yeah, but we're too far removed, man. We're just old guys. But thank you to our listeners for joining us for our first ever bonus episode, the Seoul Stache podcast. We are I'm going to put this up with our with the Soul Patch feed, so you can download this on all the platforms. You can watch it on YouTube, and you can go to our website, thesoulpatch.com, send us an email at thesoulpatch@gmail.com. And I'll be seeing you guys probably tomorrow, when Kevin and
I'm
I
taking off.
do another one. And Ryan's on leave. He's got a weekend pass from the for the week, but we'll be back together next Wednesday probably, I think. So
Yeah,
yeah.
gotta happen.
All right, Ryan, thanks, man. It was really fun. So
Yeah,
yeah.
solid.
All right,
Yeah, good
man.
night.
We'll see you later. Thanks a lot.
the ground where I frequently polish the steel of my frame, tampering limbs while repeating my name, a robust and unbreakable symbol of fear, a galvanized angel forged from a crystal tear, durable, resilient identity, indelible, the immaculate contaminant. I am not